Good evening, everyone. This is the content mission from level 1, and this is an article on sustainability. It's called The Ecological Concepts of Sustainability by Gordon H. Orians, written in 1990. First, a bit about Orians. He's the professor of zoology and the director of the Institute of Environmental Studies at the University of Washington. And this article has to do with animal extinctions, biodiversity loss, uh, humans overrunning natural processes, and at the end he does go into a little bit of how humans can help to reverse this trend. So first, I'd like to start with this. One of the points he makes first is that, well, first I'd like to say that this is a reality today. This polar bear here is floating on a block of ice, but in a couple of years that could just all be ocean. There will be no ice, there will be no habitat for these bears. But that leads me to my next point about Orion's next point about the animals here. Polar bears, everyone's heard about them losing their habitat, but we also have animals like bats that don't get, they're not the subject of expensive research projects like polar bears are. And that has to do with just humans know about polar bears. We don't care so much about bats. And they're both pretty important to their respective ecosystems. So, this is an example of how humans are influencing which species get to survive and which don't. Well, we're damaging both of them, but we're helping these ones more, even as we hurt them more. Next, this is a graph comparing the human population to the animal extinctions, and obviously there's a very noticeable correlation. Humans have been related to lots of animal extinctions in the last few years. And this article was written in 1990, like I said. So this trend was obvious 25 years ago, and it's still a topic of argument whether or not it's happening or not. And so if you're in a discussion like that, go ahead and say that it was obvious 25 years ago. And if this data had been shown, it's showing that there was a very noticeable increase of around 1950 when it started. So it's been a problem for a long time, and people who say otherwise. Next, this is the International Union of Conservation of Nature. This is talking about another thing, because he's talking about different extinctions and such things, and so these are different noticeable extinctions in recent times. So 761 major ones, and of course there are millions of species that we wouldn't know about yet, and so some of them could go extinct and we'd never know that they had ever existed. And so these are some well-known ones. And then this is comparing endangered and extinct species. But here they point out that they have no idea about what's extinct and what's not. So in this map, this one, we see that there's a lot in North America, but they point out that in North America we tend to be a lot more meticulous with record keeping. So everyone's at fault here. We're not disproportionately blamed. Everyone's at fault. We just know that we're doing it. But probably not so proportionately good about fixing that. And obviously that's a problem. His next point that he gets to is how humans have overrun natural processes, and this is just something here they has it's this discusses how natural processes help to balance out toxins and dangerous things here, um, and and nature is it, carbon dioxide, nitrogen compounds, phosphorus, sulfur, that all gets regulated naturally. And then humans, we build things like this. And obviously, even though plants can cope with some amount of carbon emission, this much is going to overwhelm the local ecosystem. And not to mention, this is probably producing a whole lot more waste that's not shown here. And that is beyond what millions of years of evolution will have prepared nature to handle. Finally, we talk about how politics can help sustainability. This is a sweeping changes to help reverse this trend. And so these sweeping changes, they're required because oftentimes people will focus on a small area and they won't actually do much for the species as a whole because they'll save the ones they can see nearby, and that doesn't help the ones that are over the hill and through the woods. That they can't help those. But sweeping changes uh, could help them, and if there are intergovernmental agencies to help with this, then well, maybe they could have different experts arguing over what the possible impacts would be of different policies, and that's obviously more important than um, any business thing, business interests. And this even explains that oftentimes business does better where uh, the ecosystem is in better shape because at the root of it is as you go from tertiary, quaternary, and quinary industries down to primary and secondary, they're using natural resources, and so unhealthy ecosystem will hurt those industries, and they won't be able to support the other ones, and so the entire world, the global economy suffers here without this, and all different industries tend to do better if the lower ones have this ability to make money, generate money, use sustainable resources. So, um, solar power, wind power, water power, things like that 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 are a lot more reusable than coal and oil, and you don't have to blow up mountains or level forests to get to them. And so obviously, like I said, this article here it's written in 1990, but my question is are is this just a 1990 problem? And really, obviously, it's not. It's not. This is not a problem that's going to go away if we just look the other way. It's very relevant today. We're seeing more and more extinctions, more and more damage to the environment. Finally, some politicians are starting to look at this. Obama recently renamed Mount McKinley to Denali, its old Athabascan name, and that's raising awareness. And the next step would be to actually enact some policy to um, support this goal. Awareness is good, action is better as long as it's to the right cause. And so this is a very, very real issue today, and anyone who tells you otherwise is going to have to be lying to themselves or just joking. Because it was obvious a very long time ago, and we've been unable to fix it. Anyway, thank you for listening to I hope I didn't rant too much. Good night.